What's going on, y'all? Episode 27, Let's Be Real podcast, coming at you Saturday morning. So I know, usually, as y'all know, we usually do the wine to start the episode, but because it's Saturday morning, because I'm going to be going to the gym later, instead of wine, we got Celsius today, and we got water today. So no wine for you. We'll get back to the wine next episode. Just had some things come up where we couldn't get the episode done Friday night. So going Saturday morning instead. So that's the reason for that. So no wine, but look, still got a great episode for y'all. We're still going to go through all the NFL games from last week, the divisional round. We're going to look ahead to the games we got coming up for the conference championships, go over some storylines. We got a lot of coaching moves, so we'll go over those. And then, again, like we've kind of been doing lately now, is do some of the NBA stuff that's going around as well. And so, look, we're going to hop right into it, y'all. Starting off with the Chiefs and Texans. So, obviously, biggest thing here, Chiefs obviously win 23-14. And the biggest thing to come out of this game all week has been officiating. And, as an athlete, you always feel like you get the short end of the officiating, but also just to see, I want to touch on the Texans first of all. From the Texans' point of view, for them to come out and blame the officiating, like, oh, we knew the refereeing was going to be bad, we knew we were going to have to beat the refs, like, that's embarrassing. Like, it's what it is. Like, was the refereeing great? No. Is it ever? No. The calls that everybody's complaining about, were they justified? Yes. You get the first roughing the passer on Mahomes. Look, if y'all watch the NFL, you know that is a roughing the passer call 99 out of 100 times. He went high, led with the helmet, did get contact helmet to helmet. It was reviewed in New York, and they explained it on the broadcast. The official they had in the broadcast explained it. They said if there is any contact to the head with the helmet, New York cannot pick up the flag. So they reviewed it. There was contact. So I don't know what you're complaining about. The second one, obviously, look, I don't think any of us, when any of us saw that in real time, I don't think anybody thought it wasn't unnecessary roughness. I don't think anybody thought it. Both of them looked like they absolutely annihilated Mahomes. Now, luckily, Mahomes got under it, didn't really take too much contact, got a little bit of contact from the forearm into the head. But look, Mahomes does that. He kind of manipulates that, late slide and everything. And if you want to say, oh, he manipulates the refs, the same thing with the sideline, trying to draw a foul. Look, if you're upset about that, then you're upset about all sports, because star players and players have done those exact things forever. They've always sold calls. They've always tried to gain an advantage. It's within the rules. So again, if you're complaining about that, then again, I want to see all of your complaints in regards to sports for the last, your entire life, because it's always been like that. So again, for the Bengals to come out and say, oh, we knew we were going to have to do it, it's just, one, is factually incorrect. You can go through all the numbers. Mahomes doesn't draw, and is very middle of the pack when it comes to roughing the passers. Does he do the flops on the sideline? Sure. We watch Josh Allen do that every week, multiple times. Again, it's just, so to me, from the Bengals point of view, like, own it. Like, it's what it is. You can blame the refs all you want. Look, the refs didn't give up a monster kickoff to start the game and yank up the player's helmet off to give him another 15 yards on top of it, right? The refs didn't allow CJ Stroud to be sacked 8 times, 9 times, whatever it was. They didn't miss the multiple field goals you guys missed. Like, they weren't the ones who didn't get to Mahomes. So again, man, it's just, the Bengals lost that game, and for them to come out and look for excuses, it's just, again, that's embarrassing. Like it is legitimately embarrassing, and I get it. Like or for the Texans, to come out, it's embarrassing. Like so again, I'm not here to I'm not trying to hear nothing about the refs, nothing like that. Again, refereeing, there's always going to be issues with it. Both teams always feel like they got the short side of it, but it's sports. And at the end of the day, they made more plays than you did. So I ain't trying to hear that. From the Texans' point of view, man, look, for if you're the Texans, this season was a success, man. Like, I get it. It's not it didn't end the way you wanted it to. But look, you dealt with major injuries to your offensive players all year, and you lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs. You get to join every other team that has a good team that gets to the playoffs every year. Like it's what happens. You lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs. You're definitely not the first. You're not going to be the last. Chiefs are a great team, and it's what it is. But for you guys, for the Texans to get as far as they did this year, like with the injuries they had to their, obviously you had Nico out for a while. You lose Stephon, you lose Tank. Like it's unfortunately with sports, injuries are a part of it, and so you got to look at it for what it is. You had a successful year, which ended to, the team that's won the last 2 Super Bowls and might win a third. So again, I think the ref stuff is embarrassing, but from the Chiefs' point of view, man, look, still not a great game. But they did what they had to do, like they have all year. And so I think they played, again, good enough to win. The Mahomes to Kelsey connection, obviously, we saw that Kelsey, when playoff time comes around, he can turn it right back up, and that's what he did. And had a monster game. And it's very similar to what we saw last year. Last year we started to hear all the, Kelsey's washed, and comes out, has a monster game, or monster playoffs. Same thing this year. Looks washed. Might be over for him. And they come out and he has another monster game. And it's just, he's at this point, he's just adding to his playoff legacy. Like he's already, I think, second in basically every category to Jerry Rice, every receiving category, just period. So, you're dealing with one of the greatest of all time. And when those guys get in those situations, they're great. And so I fully expect that to continue, but defense looked solid again. Obviously Texans ran on them a lot more than I thought they would. I think they'll shore that up because just they've been a tough team to run against. Their run defense has been really good lately, or for the last year. So I think that will shore up more against Buffalo. But yeah, from the Chiefs' point of view, again, it's just at this point, it's just survive and get to the next round. I'm not too concerned about how you look because I know when plays need to be made, they've shown that they're going to make them. And so, man, moving on to the next game, man, biggest upset of the week for sure. But man, Commanders and Lions. And so, look, I told y'all there was a good chance this happens. And so, obviously, Commanders beat the Lions 45-31. Shootout, track meet, like I said. And look, from the Commanders' point of view and from Jaden's point of view, man, incredible. Like, I feel like this is kind of the season we all expected Caleb was going to have. Where playoff success, regular season success looks head and shoulders above every other rookie. And look, for Jaden, man, I think this pretty much, he's, as far as how far he's gotten into the playoffs, he's tied with every other rookie quarterback. No other rookie's gone to the Super Bowl. So at this point, just team success-wise, he's on par with every other rookie quarterback. But look, with how he's played, his regular season, his playoffs, this is the best rookie quarterback season we have ever seen. A lot of those other rookie quarterbacks who ended up getting to this conference championship game, a lot of them were very defense-led, like Russell Wilson. I think Big Ben was one. Flacco with the Ravens. But so guys that, when you look back, those three guys I mentioned, you're talking about historically great defenses in the Ravens, the Steelers, and then the Seahawks back then with the Legion of Boom. So, when you take a guy like Jaden, who we all have kind of understood all year, his defense has been bad. And so he's been the driving force behind this. It wasn't like the defense was carrying him. He just had to not make the mistakes. So to me, hands down, I don't even think it's debatable as far as best quarterback rookie season of all time. And look, the way they're looking, man, it's that offense is something, man. And so obviously we'll talk more about what they're going to look like moving forward here in a little bit. But man, yeah, just love seeing it. Jaden's a monster. But from the other end, man, the Lions. And so with the Lions, again, I'm not going to take too much, not going to get on them too hard, right? Because this was one of the reasons why I consistently, weekly didn't have them in the top 5. Because the defensive injuries, you can only sustain that so long. And when you get in the playoffs and teams are game planning and you're going to get, everybody's best shot, when you lose, I think, they had something like 18 defensive players on IR or something like that. When you lose that amount of guys, it's just heart only brings you so far. There's a reason why you draft on talent. And so, it's part of it. You lose a lot of your defense, you get 45 hung up on you against a good offense. And so I'm not gonna kill them for that. But what I am gonna say is something that Dan Campbell had said last year when they lost in that championship game to the Niners was, you might not ever get back. And it's the sad reality of it, right? Where you have the best season in your team's history, and you looks like you're poised to get back, and a bad week of football turns it, and you're not back. And now you got to deal with the fact if you lose your OC and your DC. And so, man, it's we've seen teams suffer from where they lose the coordinators. You see that step back. It's almost we saw it with the Eagles. Say what you want about them last year. I know they had a good regular season record, but you lose your OC, lose your DC. Team doesn't look as great, and you finish the year on kind of a downturn and out in the first round. And so I could see the Lions this next year pulling back some. Obviously, you get Dan Campbell, who's big time with as far as the culture, brought in a great culture there. And now it's just, from all reports, it looks like they're going to promote from within. And again, it's what the Eagles did last year. And it's, we've seen that not be great. And so, again, I think from the Lions' point of view, it's like Dan Campbell said, man, you might not ever get back. You're going to have guys start coming up for contracts, which means you're going to have to start losing guys. You lose your OC, your DC. Now you have question marks around how that's going to work. And then, look, I hate to say it. I was talking to people on social media about it this week, but you got Jared Goff at quarterback, man. And it's I'm gonna bring it back to something I said about the Vikings a few weeks back, right? Why I thought they were going to keep Sam Darnold, why I thought Kevin O'Connell was going to keep Sam Darnold. These guys, these offensive, geniuses, the Kevin O'Connells, the Sean McVays, the Shanahans, they move off guys like Goff. Goff literally was McVay moved off Goff because he didn't think he could be the quarterback to win the Super Bowl with. And look, for Detroit, great. You guys, you look 5 years ago and Detroit was one of the teams where we're all sitting there like, they're like the team we make fun of, right? They're just the terrible team, never been good, don't have to worry about them. And Dan Campbell comes in, you bring in Jared Goff, who's a good quarterback. He's a B to B plus quarterback. And you bring bring in a new culture and all this, and everything's great. You have this great season. Oh my gosh, like the Lions, Detroit, it's great. Expectations change. When you look at the Lions this year, man, this was a disappointing year for them. And so if you told them 3 years ago, hey, in 3 years, you guys are going to have the second best record in the league. You're going to be the 1 seed in the NFC, and you're going to lose in the second round, but you're going to have a bunch of injuries on the defense, right? I feel like if you told Detroit fans that 4 years ago, they would have been ecstatic. They'd have been like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." But again, success, that brings expectations. And so I'm sure if you ask Detroit fans now, like, hey, how was the season? It's a disappointment. Like, we came up short. And look, it's like this everywhere, right? Everybody, I'm assuming most of y'all have jobs. And, you have your metrics. And, your first year, right, you do 150% of your metrics. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, employee of the year, all this, amazing, great. And then next year you do the same amount. It's like, well, okay. And the year after that you do the same amount. And it's like, well, now that's disappointing. What used to be great for you a couple years ago is no longer good anymore. It's not good enough. And so when you're looking at the Lions, man, again, just bringing it back to Jared Goff, you have to start having that serious look at, is he going to be the guy who can get us to a Super Bowl or at least back to a conference championship game? Because that's going to be the standard now. And so to me, I don't think he is. I mean, look, they put up 31 points, great. But, defense let them down. But when you get in the playoffs, man, it gets a little bit tighter. And those guys who are the Bs, the B minuses, the B pluses, if you don't have that guy at quarterback, it even with a stacked team like we see with the Lions, incredible offense. But Jaden Daniels on the other side with a much less talented offense goes up and puts up 45. And it's, again, Commanders' defense is not good. And so it goes back to having that guy at quarterback. And so for everybody who was in my TikToks talking about, my Steelers take, this is why. Talking about, oh, franchises make quarterbacks. No. So again, I think it's, I think Goff, he's safe this year. I don't think they're going to be looking at. But let next year happen. If you get that little bit of pullback with the new OCDC, I think that Jared Goff question is going to come into play again. And, it's just kind of what it is in this NFL. And look, moving on, we're going to touch on the Eagles and Rams, man. And so, look, me and Joey, obviously both wrong on our upset pick. But look, 15 yards away from being right. And, I know it's wrong, but for, everybody was like, oh, y'all wrong. Look at you. 15 yards, and it's about as close as you can get to being right. And so we're going to start, obviously, the Rams. Tough game, man. And look, I thought they were going to win. I didn't trust Philly. Kind of was proven right about that. But from the Rams, again, I think coming into this year, I don't think, anybody viewed them as legitimate contenders. I think what McVay did, what that defense did was incredible. They're obviously, I thought they were still a few pieces away. But look, you give them a draft this year, another draft where, they find these guys and they find guys. You got to think Puka, Jared Verse, man, they find guys in the draft. And so another good draft from them. Stafford looks like he's come back. He played well. They might be right back to contending status next year. And so for them, man, again, I think the expectations were that they weren't going to be this far anyways. And so for them, winning season, obviously with McVay and Stafford, only winning season is a Super Bowl at this point. But for the expectations coming in, what we all thought they would be, I think, you got to take the win out of this. And like I said, I think they've shown they're still a few pieces away. But with the way they draft over there, the few pieces might be done after this draft. So from the Eagles' point of view, man, look, again, everything that I'm worried about with the Eagles came to fruition, right? Jalen gets banged up. Knee, obviously he came back in, played, but we're going to have to see how that looks. Didn't look great on it after it happened. The defense, look, came up big, but what has my biggest question been all year? The coaching. And what caused us to almost lose this game? The coaching. Look, I get snow on the field, running the ball can be dicey. You can't drop Jalen back to pass right the next possession after he busts up his knee in his own end zone. Can't do it. That's got to be a handoff. That's got to go to Saquon. Again, just trying to get too cute with it. Causes the safety. And really, that's what got the Rams kind of just back into it. Got them a little bit of momentum going. And then, look, when we get to the end of the game, man, you have the option where you can hand the ball off to Saquon, who has been gashing them. You have that option. Instead, you run play action, bootleg out, and take a 10-yard sack because the dude is all over it. Like, Jalen didn't even have a chance to get anything out. Like, it was over before it started. And so, again, that sets them up for good field position coming out with a chance to go win the game. And look, thankfully, Jalen Carter saved Philly because it looked like, again, when Matt Stafford and the Rams got that ball with the chance down 6 to go win the game, I had no doubts the Eagles were going to give that up because it's just the most Eagles thing. And so, again, let them get all the way down to the 15, but Jalen Carter, man, saved the Eagles season legitimately. And so, testament to Howie, man, with the draft picks that he's done and, getting these guys. Jalen obviously had some big-time character issues which caused him to fall. And, shout out to Howie for getting him in the building and, taking that risk because it was a risk taking him. And so, again, I think the Eagles season, the credit goes to Howie because how he's put together this team with this much talent with a coach who seems like some weeks is trying to lose it for him is incredible. And so, again, I think, look, if they lost that game, I can't imagine that Sirianni would have been back next year. I can't imagine he would have made it out of the locker room that game without being fired. And so, obviously he's still on extremely thin ice just because of the constant. It's been a constant throughout this whole year. It's just idiotic play calling at the end of the game. And whether it's on Sirianni, whether it's on Kellen Moore, again, it's been a constant all year, and it's something that hasn't been fixed. And so if it's a constant all year, it hasn't been fixed, your head coach is on the offensive side of the ball, it's fallen on him. I don't care who's play calling it. If it's a constant issue, then you're the head coach. You got to make the decision. And so, again, man, kind of just everything I feared happened. We're able to pull it out just because, again, just so much more talent. But definitely I don't come out feeling better about the Eagles after that game. And last man, look, we got the Bills and the Ravens, 27-25. And honestly, the most probably egregious officiating call of the weekend. If anybody wants to talk about officiating, the pass interference that legitimately led to a game-changing outcome was in this game. But anyways, where we're going to start. Lamar, another early playoff exit. And, I hate to come on here and say I told you so. But let's be honest, I don't hate to come on here and say that. And two, look, I know y'all are probably going to think I'm going to kill Lamar. I'm not. I think, did he play good? No. He did not. 2 of the 3 turnovers are on him. terrible pass, terrible fumble in the first half. And it's kind of what allowed Buffalo to take control of the game. But what I will say is I fully expected after halftime, I thought they were cooked. Like, I did not think they had a chance. And to Lamar's credit, man, he played a great second half. Played a great second half. But again, it doesn't take away from the bad first half he played. So I'm not going to kill him, but I'm also not going to give him flowers. You don't get flowers for almost coming back in a game that you were a big part of the reason you were down. Now, look, if he would have came back, absolutely would gave him flowers, similar to Trevor Lawrence when, they had the big comeback against the Chargers. Obviously, big part of that was him putting him in the hole. But look, you get credit for how you respond. Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl has the only mistake, but played a perfect game after it. And so, again, I think it was a good game for him. But again, you don't get credit for almost coming back in a game that you put your team behind in. And so, do I trust him more after this game? No. But do I trust him less? No. It's just kind of what it is. And so, I know the big thing that's come out with this is, everybody blaming Mark Andrews. And look, Mark Andrews, he's also had his playoff woes, more drops than touchdowns because he doesn't have any touchdowns in the playoffs. And, he's kind of also he's in that Lamar category of he comes up short in the playoffs. And again, I'm not making an excuse for him. Do you have to catch that ball? Yes, absolutely. You're one of the best receiving tight ends in the game. You get paid like that, and it hits your hands, you got to catch it. But what I won't allow, and I text this with Joey. He'll confirm it when he gets back on here next time. What I won't allow is us to let Lamar off the hook on that throw because it wasn't a good throw. It was late. It was behind him. It was low. Does Mark Andrews need to catch it? Yes. Two things can be true. Mark Andrews does need to catch that ball. Lamar Jackson needs to make a better throw. And again, look, game on the line, playoffs, you got to make a better throw. You are the star of the team. You are the star quarterback. You are getting paid like a star quarterback. You can't be late on the throw. Can't be behind him. Can't be low. And, I think it was Phil Simms. I was watching him. He was talking about it. So, look, this isn't just me who said this. I saw this afterwards, but he comes out and he says, going through that play, he said, look, Lamar's got to throw that earlier. And he ran through the replay of it, and this is literally, you can look it up. As the play is developed, he goes, he needs to throw it here or here or here. And now he throws it. And so now it's late, and now it's behind him. And again, it's so I'm not letting Lamar off the hook for that. Just because Mark Andrews needs to catch it, two things can be true. He does need to catch it. Lamar needs to make a better throw. And so, look, they're both getting the blame on that. And again, like I said, I'm giving Lamar credit for the second half. He played great, but you still came up short in the biggest spot. And so, for the Bills' point of view, man, look, again, they did what they need to do to win. Josh Allen had that, he had a turnover. That one, it's a little bit different, third and long, takes a big old deep shot. And so, kind of one of those, punt interceptions. I'm not going to kill him for that one. You give your guy a chance to make a play down the field, and worst case scenario, they're ending up right where they're going to be anyways after a punt. So I'm not going to really give him the mistake as a mistake on that. So he's still playing mistake-free football. And look, they look tough. They look tough. The run game looked great. James Cook played well. Defense did what it had to do against Lamar. But I think the theme of the week outside of the Commanders was none of these teams that won looked great. Chiefs didn't look great. Eagles looked bad, I think. Bills didn't look great. Commanders looked great, obviously. And so I think, when you look at this round, it's, you can get away with it. Obviously, I think the Bills were probably the only team that couldn't have got away with playing bad and won. They did still. But obviously, all these teams going to need to play better in the next round because that's who's going to determine who wins this game. But from the Bills' point of view, man, I love what they did with, running the ball, getting James Cook heavily involved. Did have some injuries, so we're going to talk about that when we look at the look ahead. But yeah, no, I mean, look, when Josh Allen is playing mistake-free football, they're a hard team to beat, and it shows in that they went to the Ravens, who had dog walked them during the regular season, and came into the playoffs. Josh Allen played mistake-free, and they beat them. And so, yeah, I think we got some good games this week. And so on that, man, we're going to hop into it. So looking ahead, man, we're going to look just in order. We're going to go Eagles, Commanders first. And look, biggest question is, man, can Jaden and the Commanders just continue this upset run? So 2 games on the road so far, 3rd game on the road in the playoffs. I think only 4 teams have done that before. And 3 of the 4 have won a Super Bowl. And so, look, I mean, from Jaden's point of view, I mean, I talked to somebody about this earlier, a few days ago, a week ago, whatever it was. But when you hear guys and they're in their interviews and you hear Jaden, and you've heard a ton of guys say this, it's like we're playing with house money, like it's just another game. And while I would say every athlete, that's the mindset you give at the podium. That's the mindset you try to go in with, right? It's just another game. We just got to go out, do what we need to do. It's just another game. As long as we do what we need to do, we can win. I would say, while all the athletes you ever heard say that, 90% of them is a lie, because it's not just another game, and they know it's not just another game, and you can't treat it like it is. Jaden is in that 10%. Jaden, I truly believe just how he plays, to him it is. It's just another game. And look, it's part of why he's had the greatest rookie quarterback season I've ever seen, and probably that's ever been in the NFL. And so when you're playing with house money and when you have that kind of mentality, you're a scary guy. And so I think, can they do it? Yes. Do I see them doing it? As much as I don't trust Philly, I think they out-talented the Rams to that win last week. And I think the Rams, outside of Jaden Daniels, are far more talented than the Commanders. And so to me, again, it would have to be just an implosion from the Eagles for the Commanders to win this game. But look, we've seen what Jaden Daniels can do against that Eagles defense, throwing the 5 touchdowns in the last loss the Eagles had. And so, I mean, we know what he's capable of. He's seen the defense. It's a division game. And look, division games are always tough because they can go either way. And, it's you see each other a lot. So the division game against a team that just, ran it up on you, that worries me. Because the Commanders can't have more confidence against the Eagles than they already have. And no other team should have the amount of confidence against the Eagles as the Commanders do, outside of maybe the Chiefs. And so, is there a path for them winning? Yes. But again, I just think, one, it would be a fireable offense. It would be a fireable offense for whoever you want to fire in Philly. I would say Sirianni, but you can't lose to a rookie quarterback and allow him to be the first rookie quarterback to go to a Super Bowl when you are that much more talented after all the blemishes of this year. So for Philly, it's obviously a must win. And look, I think there is, again, I think there's a path for it. Look, Jaden Daniels having a monster game. I think Jalen, his knee is a concern for me. I got to see what he looks like. And if I'm the Commanders, man, I'm loading the box on Saquon. And look, it's what I said in their first round matchup. And since then, I'm loading the box on Saquon. If Jalen Hurts, who now has a bum knee, it's been reported he's going to have a brace on his left knee. Like, with him hampered, if him, AJ, Devontae, Goddard, if they beat me, but I'm going to take my passing offense as the Commanders against the Eagles' passing offense. And again, I think it's kind of shown out as far as just when you look, the Eagles have been better when Jalen throws less. And so if you're an opposing team, you want him throwing more. And so, I think that – so again, I think there is a very possible way the Commanders win this game. And again, if Jalen can't move like he normally can and extend plays and things, it could be really bad, because that takes out that. I mean, then they are going to load the box. It takes out the RPOs. It possibly takes out the tush push. Like, there's a lot of things that get thrown out of the playbook if Jalen can't move well enough to do those things. And so, again, I think it's a must-win for Philly. I think just for job security, for Sirianni. And then, look, I hate to say it because, I love Jalen. But if you lose this game, there is now serious questions about if he can be your quarterback. Because, look, in every playoff win they've had, he hasn't thrown for over 150 yards in one of them. And, again, it looks like it would be to the detriment of the team if he was to throw the ball more. And so, again, I think, big question marks become a thing with Jalen, especially once you get if you get Sirianni out, you bring in a new head coach, then, that's not his quarterback. He might be looking to move off him. So I think you lose this game, it's not only Sirianni that might be leaving, but it brings serious questions into Jalen Hurts and just how effective of a quarterback can he be. It could be a serious question mark about Jalen Hurts moving forward. And so with that, man, we'll move on. Chiefs, Bills, the matchup, everybody wanted, 1 versus 2. And I want to start with this one, man. And so, you know what, let me bring it back before I do. My prediction, Eagles win. But again, Jaden and the Commanders, man, the Eagles are on upset alert. But I think the Eagles do win this one. Now moving on, Chiefs, Bills, man. I want to start this one with just, obviously, I think these are probably the 2 best teams in the league right now. Just with the question marks I have about Philly and then the Commanders, all due respect to the Commanders and what they're doing, but I don't think they're on a level of any of the other 3 teams. I don't think anybody does. But for the Chiefs and Bills, obviously, Mahomes, Allen. Mahomes 3-0 against Allen in the playoffs. And so I want to talk about who's got more pressure. And to me, it's Josh Allen. I know people are going to say Mahomes, going for the 3-peat, blah, blah, blah. Mahomes is already made. Like, if Mahomes lost this game and the Chiefs lose this game, like, no one's 3-peated. Like, that's going to be the thing. No one 3-peated. So, they almost made it. Conference championship game. So I think it's tied for the furthest anybody else with 2 championships has ever gone. But, they're kind of, again, like, almost to the point, not quite to the point, but almost like the Commanders. Like, they're playing with house money. Like, if you lose, like, you were trying to do something no one else had done. And everybody thought you had a bad team. So the fact you're in the conference championship game when everybody thought you had a bad team, going for a 3-peat, which no one has ever done, like, there's really no pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Now, Josh Allen, on the other hand, I already said, winless against Mahomes in the playoffs, 0-3, which is tied for the record most games without a win, like, against somebody in the playoffs. So if he loses this game, he is the only person with more than 3 losses without a win against the same guy in the playoffs. And look, now I think obviously there's going to be differing levels to it, right? If he goes out and balls out, and we're looking at a 30, you know, 35 to 32 game, and Josh has, three touchdowns and 400 yards, and Mahomes just outplays him, going to be hard to kill him, right? But if he, has a turnover or two, and look, we saw it last game. He didn't do it with the little pitch to James Cook, but he was gonna try it, and I really think he wanted to do it. I think the only thing that stopped him was the fact that he got wrapped up, and there was a hand on the ball. He talked in the post game of like, yeah, no, I wanted to do it. Old Josh Allen would have done it, but it's I kept the ball, say blah blah. No, you're not gonna fool me. You were trying to throw that, you just couldn't get there, and that could have been the difference of the game. And so, I think when you're an athlete, who you play really has a factor on how you play the game. And so similar here where Josh wanting to throw that little pitch, you're playing a team that can put up points, has the MVP over there, like you got to make some plays. And similar to how it's going to be with the Chiefs, I think there's going to be one or two plays in this game. And look, we've seen it. Like you've seen previously against the Chiefs, like not as much, I mean, maybe the Bills, but just you see teams when they play the Chiefs, a lot of what they do changes. They go for it on fourth down more. They might try some more trick plays. Like, because when you're playing a team like the Chiefs, you almost have to empty the pistol, right? Got to empty the clip. And so I think with this game, Josh Allen, I think there's going to be a couple times where he's like, I got to make a play. And it's going to be what either wins them or loses them the game. If the play ends up working out, I think, that he might be able to get over that hump. But I also think he's going to be much more susceptible this game than any other game this year to have just a couple of those what in the world turnovers that we've kind of all gotten used to from him. And so, look, I think obviously they beat the Chiefs in the regular season. I think the matchup now isn't as great. And so I'm going to just kind of talk through the matchups I'm going to be watching. And so I think for the Bills, I don't think they're going to be able to have a lot of success throwing the ball to receivers. I think you got McDuffie, who's going to get Shakir. You got Watson, who's probably going to take whichever receiver he needs to take. And so I think the receivers are going to be – it's going to be tough to have a big game to them. The tight ends, though. The Chiefs are susceptible to tight ends. So you need Kincaid and Knox. I think they have to have big games this week for the Bills to have a win. And like I said, I think Cook is just – I think it's going to be hard to run against the Chiefs. I know the Texans just did it, but I just think I'm going to play the fact that all year they've been a great run defense, and last week was kind of just a bad game. And so, again, I think the tight ends is going to be the matchup to watch as far as the Buffalo. I think what I do think also is I think Spags will probably spy Josh Allen, which he didn't do too much of in the regular season. I think that becomes a bigger play this game as well. And from the Chiefs, man, look, I think the Chiefs, this is the game I think we see that offense kind of break out. Because I think where the Bills are susceptible is that secondary. They're one of their cornerbacks is questionable with that concussion and a personal issue. Their safety is out. Another one of their defensive backs is questionable. And so, or I don't think he's questionable. No, he's playing, but he's the one, he popped out his shoulder. Tyron Johnson, I think, popped out his shoulder. So, how physical can he be? So I think this is the game where, and look, Travis Kelce Milano's great. Buffalo has great linebackers, but Kelce has always kind of gotten off against Buffalo. So I think this is the game where that pass game really gets going. I think this is where you see Hollywood, DeAndre, and Xavier being real big parts of the game. And I think the offense gets rolling, which is why, look, I'm picking the Chiefs to win this one. And so I think Chiefs win it. I think we have a good game, but I don't think it's ever going to be in doubt. I think the Chiefs win it and win it, kind of 2-score game the whole way, up by 10 most of the time. But yeah, but like I said, I think it'll be a great game. And so, man, look, we're going to go into the top stories from the week. And really, this is basically just the coaching carousel that's going around right now. And so, look, we're going to start my hometown, Vegas. Obviously, Pete Carroll signing to the Raiders, 3-year deal. And I actually, you know what? Y'all know me if you've listened to the podcast at all. You know I like offensive coaching. I think that's the way the league is going outside of a few coaches. But I think offensive coaching is typically the way to go. That being said, I love this hire for the Raiders. I think what the Raiders need now, do I think they'll win? Absolutely not. I think if Pete Carroll was looking for a team to have success with, it was a terrible decision. Arguably the worst team in the league that had a head coaching vacancy that you could have gone to if you were looking to have success with winning. What I do think is he's perfect for building the culture, kind of getting them going the right direction. And then when this contract is up, they'll have either, if he wants to keep coaching, maybe, but he's going to be the guy where they're like, that's what turned the Raiders around. And I think that's why he's taken the job, is because he can be the guy who turns a franchise around, which I think he will, because I think he can set up a culture. Look, he's good with young quarterbacks, as we saw. And the Raiders, solid defensive pieces. He's a great defensive coach. And so I think he'll do really well as far as establishing a culture. Again, if you're looking for success, this ain't it. I mean, you're in a division with the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. All 3 playoff teams. All 3 coaches who are arguably better than Pete Carroll. Which, no shot against Pete Carroll. Like, you're talking about 3 amazing coaches. Andy Reid's arguably gonna go down as a top 2 to 3, 1, 2, or 3 ever as a coach. Harbaugh, success everywhere he's gone, and Sean Payton is viewed as one of the best offensive coaches ever. And so, I think, again, no shot at Pete. Probably the worst coach in the division, on the worst team in the division. But I think he and the Raiders, it's exactly what the Raiders need. And so I love the hire for them. I think he's kind of, like I said, just the guy before the guy that kind of starts bringing some wins. But yeah, I love the hire for the Raiders. Next, we're going to go to the Jags, man. And so Jags signing Liam Cohen right after he signs a massive extension to continue as the Bucs OC. And so, look, as far as him signing the extension and then backing out and going to be the coach here, I'm not going to kill him for it. Because, look, for all of us, in all of our industries, there's only going to be specific times in your career where you're going to be like one of the most sought after people. And it can change real quick. And the example I'll use is Bobby Slowick, right? OC for the Texans, former OC for the Texans, who last year was in the same position Liam Cohen's in. Going to interviews, head coaching offers, and he decides, no, I'm going to go back to the Texans. And now he's fired with no head coaching jobs. And I think Liam Cohen looks at that saying, look, I got to strike while the iron's hot. And so, we can see how quickly it can change I'm I go from being the offensive coordinator, one of the top offensive coordinators as far as sought after, you know, going through the interviews. I could go from that to fired with no offers in a year. And look, Bobby Slowick, I mean, dealt with injuries on that offensive side of the ball. Like, so I don't blame Liam Cohen. I think any of us who in our careers have ever had leverage or had an opportunity to, you know, make a decision career wise, we take that opportunity. And it doesn't matter what kind of loyalty you have to the company or anything like that. When you get that opportunity, you got to take it. And so I love him taking the opportunity. As far as how he'll do, look, we'll see. You got what between him, Ben Johnson, who we'll talk about, Aaron Glenn, who we'll talk about, whoever the Cowboys end up hiring, who we'll talk about. Chances are not all those are going to hit. And look, we look at, I think we all get kind of enamored with the Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniels, Kyle Shanahan. And Mike McDaniels kind of loosely, but we kind of get enamored with these OCs. And look, I am guilty of this as well. We get enamored with these OCs, like these young OCs who are like the next offensive geniuses, and we're like, you got to get them. You got to get one. But we fail to remember that Freddie Kitchens and Nat Hackett, and there's possibly Mike McDaniel, how you feel about the Dolphins. But there's just a lot of these OCs that don't end up working out, who, are these hot OCs coming in, and, you look at them like, oh, how can they fail? And so, who's it going to be? I don't know. Like I said, I like the move from the Jags. I also love that they fired the GM. Obviously, Liam is not going to get a say in who they hire, but I don't think I can't remember his name now, but the GM for the Jags, I don't think he's done a great job. And so getting him out, kind of just restarting this whole clock. And you got Trevor there, who I think has the potential to be great. I love the move for them. Next, we're going to go Aaron Glenn with the Jets, man. And so, look, to me, and I'm not going to pretend to be plugged in. Everything I've seen and heard this whole week has been how amazing Aaron Glenn is. So I don't want to take shots at him like, look, DC, again, you guys kind of know how I feel about that. But look, he has connections to the Jets. I just don't like it. I don't like it. To me, it feels like Robert Saleh 2.0. And now, look, maybe they look at what happened when they're like, okay, we fired Saleh and season went even worse. Defense regressed, everything. Like, let's kind of revamp it and we'll just do better. And maybe that's what they're thinking. To me, I would have liked them to, I think they, similar to the Raiders, they needed to go and get a culture setter, which is why I said Rex Ryan before. I think that they needed somebody to come in and be the guy before the guy. Set the culture, get some pieces in there, have a couple more drafts that you hopefully don't bomb on your quarterback or whoever. Get Aaron Rodgers out of the building. I just think first-year head coach who's defensive side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers still there. I'm not a fan of it. I think Aaron Glenn, again, it's hard to say if he can come in and establish a culture. I know guys who have had him on their coaching staff and have worked with him, like, say, he can, and that they can't, they think he is going to be a great head coach. But again, just from me, outside looking in, I almost would have preferred him to be the coach after, like, a Rex Ryan came in. Because, again, then you have the culture already set up there. You can come in and kind of pick up and maybe get him over the hump. Instead, I think it's to me, it just looks like another Robert Saleh. And so for the last hire, man, we're going to go Ben Johnson to the Bears. And look, I'm going to give props to the Bears because I really thought they was going to mess this up. I thought like I said, I had been on they need to hire Ben Johnson. I think the upside with Ben Johnson is just higher than any other coach they could have gotten, especially with Caleb Williams. But again, I thought the Bears were going to do just the most Bears thing they could have. And I thought they were going to go with a safe choice, like a Mike McCarthy or a Pete Carroll. And so, look, I give them respect. Because look, the Bears to me could have easily turned into, the Cowboys or the Lakers of just being that team kind of stuck in their past, which the Bears have been up to this point. They've been that team that kind of holds on to their past morals and kind of rides that. And, we're going to be tough-nosed defense, so we're going to get a defensive coach. Like I said, similar to kind of the Lakers, just resting on the fact of like, oh, we're the Lakers. Like, we're going to keep everything in-house. And they're running it more. They're one of – they were running the Bears and the Lakers running the Lakers like those companies – back in the day who were like, well, we've done things like this since the 50s. It's like, well, no, you need to start getting some guys from, Silicon Valley, and you need to start upgrading everything. You need to start keeping with the times. It's like, no, we have our old school. And so, look, the Bears, I love the fact that they went with Ben Johnson. I think, again, it would have been easy for them to take a Pete Carroll or a Mike McCarthy, and it would have been right on par for what they normally do. So I give them respect for that. I think it's their best chance. Now, look, again, these coordinators, someone's not going to work, right? You're not going to have 3 coordinators get 3 head coaching jobs as first-year head coaches, possibly 4, depending on what the Cowboys do. You're not going to have that and everybody be successful. It's just not going to happen. So maybe Ben Johnson is one of those guys like a Kingsbury where it's like great OC, bad head coach. But I think you almost owe it to your team, to Caleb, to at least take a shot and pair him up with a guy who, if it works, you got your quarterback coach combination for what you're hoping is the next 15 years. And look, lastly, we're going to touch on the clown show that is the Dallas Cowboys. Because, look, what did I say last time? We talked about it. Dion going to the Cowboys was the big news going into last Saturday and for last Friday when we filmed. And lo and behold, now hasn't interviewed with the Cowboys. But you know who's now on the list? Kellen Moore, which I said. And 3 days ago, the word was Brian Schottenheimer, the OC for the Cowboys, who didn't call plays, was inches away from signing a contract as the Cowboys' new head coach. And basically was supposed to be done either Tuesday or Wednesday and Thursday. And now it's Saturday and they still haven't signed anybody. And so, look, Cowboys just staying on with this thing. I mean, it's the Cowboys, man. Apparently what's going on, Dion said he'd take the job. Jerry kind of wants Dion. The kids want Brian Schottenheimer, who's had no success anywhere he's gone. And Kellen Moore's just kind of floating out there as just like, maybe we'll get Kellen Moore. And so, again, to me, this is all leaning towards what I talked about last time. Jerry in the news, Cowboys in the news, because we know Jerry has made it clear earlier this year. That's what he cares about. That is the number one priority, is the Cowboys being in the news cycle. And so last week it's Dion. This week where everybody's talking about Brian Schottenheimer and, well, geez, is this the right move for the Cowboys? Brian hasn't had success anywhere. And so now we've had multiple weeks where the Cowboys aren't in the playoffs but are dominating the news cycle. So what do I think happens? I think Brian Schottenheimer or Kellen Moore for sure ends up with this head coaching job. Dion, like I said, was a great news cycle for Jerry. You know, still hasn't interviewed him. Now going on 2 weeks. I would think somebody you'd really want, you'd probably interview. But doesn't look like they're doing that. And so, again, Cowboys is being Cowboys, man. Brian Schottenheimer, Kellen Moore, that's who it's going to be. Um, yeah, it'd just be the most Cowboys move. And so that's where we're going to leave that one, man. And so, look, that wraps us up for football. And like I said, we're going to touch a little bit on the basketball stuff here to end the game, to end the pod, just because y'all know I love the NBA. And so, try it as we move towards the end of the football season. Obviously, NBA is going to ramp up a ton, and so we're going to start off, man. Jimmy Butler versus the Heat in what has just become a wild story. So, look, Jimmy Butler, for all y'all who haven't been paying attention to basketball because it's football season and y'all ain't really into basketball like that. Jimmy Butler has been suspended by the Heat multiple times now because he came out saying he wanted out. So he gets suspended for conduct detrimental, comes back for 2 days, then he misses a flight, gets suspended again. And it's just like, even when he was on the court, you could, he was doing stuff that you could just tell he did not want to be playing for the Heat. And so it's just, this is going to be one of those things, man, where I don't know if he gets traded. Pat Riley is Pat Riley's not going to lose a trade. So it's not like a team is going to come to Pat Riley and be like, I'm going to give you 10 cents on the dollar because Jimmy wants out. And he's doing all this. I don't think Pat Riley cares. Pat Riley, to me, and from what he's shown, Pat Riley is a guy who's going to stand on what he said and let you suffer before he makes a bad move and makes himself look dumb. And so I don't think any team is going to be out there that's going to want to give up a bunch for Jimmy Butler, who's only going to have one more year after this year, and who's going to want a contract extension, which is probably why this is all going on right now, because he wasn't going to get it because he's 36. And so I don't think this gets done. And the only way this gets worse, and look, if I'm Jimmy Butler's agent, this is what I'm telling him to do, because then it's going to force the Heat to make a move. Is you got to opt into you opt in next year. And I'm telling the Heat, I'm telling Pat Riley, look, we are going to opt into our last year at $50 million. And so, then you kind of put them in a bind, because are you going to do this all next year too? And so, again, it's just weird situation to be in. But it's kind of, I was telling somebody this last week. It's just, this has kind of become Jimmy Butler. Like, he's just a guy where, and maybe it's just because of the personality, he's a, very, very, has a very, very abrasive personality. And, you've seen it with teammates, coaches, teams, where he gets in a building and in about 4 or 5 years, 3, 4 or 5 years, it turns south real quick and kind of out of nowhere. We saw it with the Timberwolves. We saw it with Philly. And now we're seeing it here. And it's just, he's starting to get that reputation very similar to a James Harden, right? Where it's like, okay, I've kind of run my course here. I don't like it here anymore. Get me out. But he does it in a much more aggressive way. And so I don't think, again, I think I may have talked about this on a podcast. I don't think that this is going to be legacy defining for him, because, like, for a Harden, because Harden has a legitimate legacy. Harden's going to go down as one of the best regular season players we've ever seen. Jimmy Butler doesn't really have a legacy, so it's not really going to be like something where it's like a but for him, like it is for Harden. But he's very similar to that, like I said, just on a much more just aggressive, kind of dominating way. And so, again, kind of, the situation, I don't see who trades for him, but I also don't see how the Heat don't trade him if he's going to opt into that contract next year. Next one, man, is, and these last two are going to tie in together, but look, Lakers, it's come out from other GMs, they speculate that the Lakers don't want to mortgage their future to go all in. And it's also come out that LeBron and AD also feel like the Lakers aren't trying to do enough to go after a championship. And look, we can all point at, and look, I said it when the Lakers did it. I thought it was a great move. Go out, got Dorian Finney-Smith, guys, man, I see his face, can't even picture it right now. But they made the move with Brooklyn, got D'Lo out, which again, addition by subtraction, I think, just didn't fit. Get DFS in, which is exactly what they need. He's been on a minutes restriction, so. But look, LeBron came out and said they got to play perfect basketball, right? To win games, they have to play almost perfect basketball for 48 minutes. And look, he's still playing at an incredible level. AD's playing at an incredible level. And I think I was guilty of it because I thought, I'm like, when they went out and traded all the second round picks, which, again, second round picks in the NBA mean nothing. Literally nothing. Very few of them ever make it to the NBA. So, whether you want to say okay, they're willing to give up some of their future, they weren't, are they really? But it at least kind of gave some hope, right? Like, okay, you go get a 3-and-D wing, which is something they need. I'm like, okay, maybe, they're going to try to make some moves here. And then it's just right back to the same old Lakers, man. And it's, well, we want to win, but we don't want to mortgage the future for it. And again, I think if you have these guys like AD, LeBron, Giannis, Jokic, Steph, to not go all in while they're in a place where they can win championships still is just negligence by the team. And so again, I was thinking they were going to flip those first for somebody, and whether it was a center, which you probably wouldn't have to flip multiple first, maybe have to flip one. But whether it was a center or, going out trying to go big game hunting, which I don't think they really should do, but maybe they do. At least, there was the thought that they might do it. Now it's looking like same old Lakers. They're not going to do it. And we're looking at another second round exit for the Lakers, which again is just, we talked about it with the Bears, right? Lakers we're the Lakers. We're going to rest on our laurels here. People want to play for the Lakers. And it's like, no, LeBron wanted to play for the Lakers. That's really the only player that's wanted to play for the Lakers who's been a free agent over the last 20 years, 30 years. So that's a star. Ever since Shaq was really the last guy that was like, give me to the Lakers. Since then, no one is really pushed to get there. And I don't know if it's just they're delusional, which probably, but yeah, again, I think, look, the best thing that the Lakers could do is, one, fire Pelinka, who's done, in my opinion, literally nothing, and arguably one of the worst GMs in the league. But that, or sell the team, which they'll never do because, Dr. Buss was Dr. Buss, and there's no way the Buss family's selling it. So, but look, it's going to move in right into our next one, and Golden State. And now starting to come out after, again, shocker, they're not winning too much playing 12 guys. But now it's starting to come out, questions about should they blow up the team? And my answer is, if you're not going to go and start trading these young pieces to go get Steph, guys that can go win a championship, then yes, you should blow up the team. And coincidentally, I mean, the thing that makes the most sense is the Lakers and Golden State doing a deal. I don't think that'll ever happen. I mean, it would, again, yeah, I could never see it happening. But, and I don't think they're going to blow it up. I think, and as fans of the NBA, it sucks because we're being robbed of Steph, LeBron, these like twilight years, KD to some extent, these twilight years of these all-time greats. We're kind of getting robbed because their teams want to set up for the future when they're gone, which part of me gets. But the other part of me is like, and I've brought this up before, but how many times as a team do you how many LeBrons or Stephs or Kevin Durant's are going to be in this draft? Are going to be in any drafts? Not too many. We don't see them too often. So if you have them, you have to maximize them while they're there. I don't care if they retire in 2 years. You better go make moves for these 2 years to get championships while you can. Because you look at a team like the Bulls, who have been bad since Jordan left, with a Derrick Rose, a couple years sprinkled in there. But from Jordan to Derrick Rose to now, with good draft picks, you can be in the wilderness for a long time. I would rather squeeze out as many championships as I could and be dreadful for 4 years while I don't have draft picks than squeak into the playoffs with these generational talents. Then when they leave, have these great draft picks like the Lakers had after Kobe. And, they're good and you're still bad. You're tied for the worst record over 5 years and you're waiting for another generational talent to finally come, or you draft one, which who knows. So to me, again, I think setting your team up for the future or worrying about your future in the NBA as a GM is one of the biggest, it's just one of the biggest mistakes I think GMs make, because there's no guarantee other than what you already have. And if you already have generational, go all in with it. And so, look, man, that's all we got for today. I appreciate all y'all as always. Look, like, subscribe, follow us, click the bell on all the different platforms: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TikTok. We're still on TikTok. Look, my phone never took it off, so I still got it running. So feel free, follow, comment. But yeah, man, as always, I appreciate all y'all, and we'll see y'all next time.